London calling, YouTube, London calling everyone, and how is everybody on this fair evening?
Lovely.
Quite
Well,
handsome.
thank you.
Yes, the great holy donkey has blessed me with happiness.
Hooray! And Coquipirate is hamsterful, isn't that right?
Yes, that is my emotional state presently.
Aha. Excellent. Right, well, this time around, and trying to keep track of my alphabet this time, we're going to do my thing for this week. My thing for this week is I've seen the trailer for Karen Gillan's new horror thriller Oculus, and I was expecting it to just be rather kind of generic, and I was going, oh, I'll watch it for her. But actually, the whole scary mirror thing, Karen Gillan sounding American, I assume she's convincing, I don't know, and the fact that since Doctor Who, where's she been? Everywhere. And I've seen her in romantic comedy, Not Another Happy Ending. She's landed a sitcom pilot with ABC. And, of course, you can see her for an entire half-second in the Guardian of the Galaxies trailer. So she's kind of covering all bases, doesn't want to be typecast just yet. And I'm interested in really following her career there. And, of course, it's alphabetical, so we always begin with the bum. Your thing for this week.
My thing for this week is hamsters.
Excellent.
Not really for any particular reason other than my friend snuck his hamsters into school, and they just kind of sat on the desk and flopped on top of each other, and they looked like pancakes with legs.
Oh, and is one of them a hamster of prosperity?
Indeed.
Ah,
That
fantastic.
brings blessings upon your entire class.
Only if you put them on your head.
Exactly. And so you're as hamsterful as Cokie now. Cokie, I bet you're pleased with that.
Yes, this development pleases me a great deal.
Aha. And your thing for this week?
My thing for this week is that after what seemed to have been a month or 2 month long hiatus, they finally updated Mysterious Girlfriend X. I'm not sure how familiar you are with Mysterious Girlfriend X, and I don't want to spoil anything. It is a tremendously interesting manga that follows the very traditional route of the boy meets girl, but with some interesting characters. I highly recommend it. In this recent issue, Yoko comes off as kind of creepy. Watch the anime or the manga, but yes, that made my day. And also, today, the Attack on Titan manga updated, and that always takes forever to update. So, yes, I've been reading a lot of manga.
Aha. And Philip?
My thing for this week. Well, I'll tell you what I've been doing this week. I've been delving into the Big Finish's Iris Wild Time saga. So that's what I've been up to. Catch up on Katie Manning's alter ego.
To explain, Big Finish, for anyone who doesn't know, Big Finish do the Doctor Who audios, and Iris is a companion, I suppose, and a bit unusual. She's an older companion, isn't she?
Yes, she is. And they kind of make her out to be a somewhat of a Time Lord, but she's not actually a Time Lord. She's an extra-dimensional being that kind of feels like Doctor Who, but she isn't Doctor Who, if you know what I mean. She travelled in a TARDIS double-decker bus.
Oh yes, I have heard about this character. I haven't heard that many Big Finishes. I'm just really now properly getting into them. And yes, Katie Manning, for anyone who doesn't know, played Jo Grant. I explained that because obviously this is not for the pure Omega Files audience. There might be some people who are more casually acquainted with Doctor Who. But yes, Jo Grant is still alive and well in the Big Finish audios. And if you're a Doctor Who fan, you've never heard any Big Finish audios, they are definitely worth a try.
Yeah.
So, without further... Oh, sorry, you, James. So, alphabetically, you had to be at the end of the alphabet.
Yes, and that was unfortunate, but everyone else had something to say. Nobody had to copy from me. But my thing for this week, there was a bumped topic because we've got to try and keep the running time of this quite short. So the bumped topic was companions and how... Are they becoming female companions? Are they becoming more independent, more strong, more better representations of women as time goes on? I would say that there was never a time that in the classic series that there was a weak companion. With the Joe Grant was perhaps the weakest, but then you have Sarah Jane Smith, you have Leela, you have Ace. The idea that female companions in classic Doctor Who were just screaming, running away from monsters and waiting for the Doctor to save them is a myth. New Doctor Who, however, every female character, almost every female character except Catherine Tate, is just in love with the Doctor and, ooh, isn't he the most wonderful man in the world? And please give me a break. So.
Aha. So there you are. I see, since we have a room full of Whovians, does anybody have any reaction to that?
I completely agree on the grounds that, like, I don't know, I feel like, especially in terms of just general representation, New Doctor Who, save for, like, Martha, every companion so far has been skinny and white, and so, like, representation is definitely on the low end of things right now, and I hope they'll fix it. I keep pitching for, like, a Muslim companion or another black companion, but no, we need more white chicks, apparently.
It's interesting that in the Sarah Jane Adventures, they did include an Indian girl as a companion in the show, yet they won't even touch that in Doctor Who. It's like it can be done. Why won't they do that?
The whole lineup of Sarah Jane was very kind of multicultural, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yes, it's one of the ways in which the Children's Hour version does it better, because, like, they did Sontaran, seriously.
Oh, don't get me started on Strax.
Another Strax hater. Yes. So, okay, I do apologise there. You know when I start a show, I get flustered, James. I didn't mean to. I almost skipped.
No, it's okay. Everyone else is a regular. I'm the new guy, so...
So, there was an article this week asking the question, are we returning to a more 1970s Doctor Who? Emphasis on the more horror, or some people might get this term, hammer horror oriented, which was like sort of more kind of Victorian Gothic, that kind of dark horror things, what we generally call the Hinchcliffe era, but not actually exclusive. It's funny because you can say the horror of the Hinchcliffe era, and you can say the horror of the Moffat era, and yet superficially they're similar, but they actually mean very different things.
Yeah.
Going, actually, shall I go reverse alphabetically this time? So I can start with you, James, on the should Doctor Who return to being more like the 70s, particularly with real dark horror? That's basically the question.
Yes. Basically, the important thing to remember is that the horror aspect, or any kind of aspect of the 1970s Doctor Who, was unique to that era. That was the time when hammer horror was big, when horror films followed that formula. So whilst, you've pointed out yourself, superficially Moffat and, what was the name of the writer before? The other writer, Hinchcliffe.
Oh, Hinchcliffe.
Hinchcliffe. Superficially, they may be similar, but their messages, their tone, their feel, etc., is completely different. This is because we're never going to be able to recreate hammer horror because that was a different time. It's like the same way that the Daleks are never going to mean the same thing as they did just 20 years after World War II, when things like genocide and racial purity were still ingrained in the public consciousness. Mm-hmm. So, and again, it's just we can have horror-themed Doctor Who, but it's never going to be able to go back to the way things were. unfortunately.
I definitely agree about atmosphere. Well, I would say two of the most successful classic series stories were, of course, Genesis of the Daleks, and I heard a review recently by a young fan who'd only just seen Kayser for the first time. And I don't think anything in the new series has been tonally, and you mentioned tonally, has been tonally anything close to Genesis of the Daleks or Kayser, which you just feel so much.
Indeed, I think there is kind of that. It's not just a trend with Moffat and Doctor Who. There is a trend in television today to move away from the pure emotional impact, that kind of dark, introspective tone. Today, it's all family entertainment and big special effects, etc. Whatever draws the viewers. Whatever entertains people for 20 minutes or 45 minutes or 90 minutes, depending on the medium. But yes, back when there had to be style, because the substance of Doctor Who was still quite limited. Nowhere near today. People use CGI and special effects and lens flare, etc., to literally hide the fact that there's nothing going on. But in the old, it had to be more theatrical.
Yes, I did think that the Time War, when we finally saw it, looked like every other science fiction battle of the past 5 or 10 years.
Exactly.
And Philip, your take?
Yeah, I think, the problem with moving into more horror effective drama in Doctor Who, it depends on how much horror they can put on TV in this day and age. Because, to be honest with you, they're playing around with Doctor Who with kids clubs at the moment, and in a way, I can imagine some younger viewers will be like, "Oh my God, this is awful." But for us, like people in their teens and upwards, will think this is crap. It doesn't give me any kind of feeling of wow. I'm really enjoying it. It's become bland. I'm hoping that if they do push towards a more horror genre, that they do it properly and not half-ass. Really.
Yeah, at least at the end of Crimson Horror, that the Doctor didn't get to save the parasite. Mrs. Gideon, Mrs. Gideon's daughter just takes her stick and smashes and squishes the thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm not too familiar with Classic Who, but I will say that my favorite episode of Doctor Who, as I'm familiar with it, has been Blink. So in terms of... And that was a Moffat episode back when he was under Russell T, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I will say that the way that they can work horror in Doctor Who, obviously, I wouldn't want it to become, the main staple, but the Weeping Angels have, a really interesting mechanic, and the silence, I don't think they've been used, properly for horror, but they certainly have some very inventive enemies, so,
Yeah.
I think in terms of making some, scary episodes, but totally, I can't say I'm too familiar with the previous one.
I think the thing about Blink was that it was a horror film, but the thing about horror films is the sequels often aren't as good.
Yeah, that's true. When the Weeping Angels appeared in that, in the future, it wasn't nearly as good. You have to introduce a new sort of monster for it to be mysterious and crazy. That being said, Angels Take Manhattan, it wasn't a bad episode, it just wasn't horror. I just love how the fact that Rory kind of accepted that he'll die, but, what usually happens is that he comes back. But yeah, I deviated.
Yeah, death must be so boring for Rory by now. So, again? Really? Aha. And the bum?
I think that if it does veer towards that, it seems like it would definitely be something that would be really interesting with Capaldi as the Doctor. especially just the way he's dressed. Like, he carries that air where it seems like he would just be very good in those situations. That, and I'm kind of hoping that these different feel of episodes will somehow lead to us getting rid of Clara at some point, please. So, I'm hoping that she'll just get so scared to death that he'll need to find somebody new. Which is a shame, because, I mean, her actress is just she's a good actress. She just has such a bad character. I'm veering off topic. But yeah, I think that if it does go that way, I just really hope that they don't overdo the CGI and they take advantage of, like, the resources they already have and learn some lessons from past episodes.
Yeah.
Yes. Similar point to James's then, but not just go, look, we can give you a CGI monster. Be scared now.
Exactly. And also, I just want to say, with regard to killing off Clara, the problem with Clara, as you point out, is not that the actress is bad. It's that no one in New Doctor Who seems to be able to write characters, female companions, who aren't tough, sassy action girls who are also hopelessly in love with the Doctor. So they've just run out of material. Okay, what, we make her love him again? What? Okay, so kill off Clara. They'll just bring in another empty vessel that they don't know what to do with, because apparently no one in New Doctor Who knows what a companion actually is.
Maybe mix it up. It could be a female Dalek who's hopelessly in love with the Dalek.
Now, I would watch that.
Companion.
I would absolutely watch that.
We have seen the Doctor cry over the death of a Cyberhead.
This is true.
Oh, handles. Yeah.
Again, a female Dalek in love with the Doctor. I don't want to see the erotic fan art on DVD.
That's the best part.
See, now I'm imagining all sorts of things with the plunger. Thanks, James.
Yes, just have to get a power drill, get that out of my skull.
Yeah. Okay. Well, without further ado then, on to, now, because it's supposed to also be an Oscar special. Now, I don't know who here, I'm going to ask, who here has seen the film 12 Years a Slave?
Yes!
Right, now, I look back slightly sceptical, because when the posters arrived here in London, they already said Oscar nominated on them. So you kind of know, oh right, this is a film that you're meant to like because it's hard-hitting and serious, and it's already been nominated for Oscars. But throughout the week, James and I have been talking about Oscar bait. I think James is more sceptical than I am. I think sometimes a genuinely laudable film gets through, like The Reader is a film that we'd both agree on. I believe it was Kate Winslet got the Oscar for that. 12 Years a Slave, it's not the first slavery film ever made. I will say that I like the fact that it's completely bold and brave. It doesn't hold back on anything. You feel the brutality when somebody's beaten. You feel the sense of what's like you're in the room or on the plantation in certain scenes. It's a very uncompromising film. I would have taken down the incidental music slightly more, because I don't think audiences should ever be condescended to in a this is a bad thing that's happening, especially when it's this kind of subject. It's a niggling thing I have for lots of films, perhaps more so when it's such a serious subject. What really struck me, and this is when you know you're looking at something through the lens of history, is not the scenes of outright brutality as much as they are extremely effective. By the way, while I recommend this film to anybody listening, there is violent, non-consensual sex in this film. I just need to tell people that. And basically, what mainly struck me was when the slaves were being paraded, naked no less, and really treated like they were cattle. really, like, you're not, you don't think these people have emotions, you don't think they're people. And so it actually is kind of the slave dealers and slave owners in that scene, to us, look kind of hypnotized or deluded. Like, is there something wrong with you? Apart, of course, famously, the Benedict Cumberbatch character is the slave owner who's got that hint, that twinkle, he kind of like recognition, though this actually isn't right, and I do know this isn't right. And I think that was actually captured very well, an example of some extremely good good acting and good direction there. And the actual thing, though, is, I think we've all seen this, the Peter Nyong'o, speech. And I will say, happy birthday to Peter, because she turned 31 this week, and has won an Oscar for her first ever film. And when a speech that she gave actually earlier than her Oscar speech, she was talking about growing up, I suppose, feeling there was, somebody help me out here, a Caucasian-centric kind of ideal of beauty.
That's correct. Yeah.
And there was a model she saw, because she was on the verge of wanting to whiten her skin, and a model kind of like saved her in a way and inspired her, and actually realised, that black is beautiful. And obviously, I suppose she's almost as old as I am, so this would have been, I suppose, some time ago. But she now gets letters from people like that. And I would have said, actually, this is one of those areas when it comes to what we call progress, where perhaps the most dangerous thing is when you just assume, oh, that's all sorted. I remember in the 90s as a teenager, Black is Beautiful, the Dove campaign went to great lengths. One of the things they did was to be ethnically diverse. I remember other teenage boys, quite often the one that the Spice Girl that they fancied was Scary Spice. And so it kind of, it's just one of those things you just assume people don't still have those kind of Caucasian normative ideas. Surely, and Lupita grew up in Kenya, although educated in the US. So was she really exposed to this kind of thing? So it was something that in many ways I'd say kind of surprised me and took me back a bit. Another moving thing is in her Oscar speech, she talks about how, coming from Kenya, an Oscar for her first movie, and this validates my dream, and this validates the dreams of everyone. Benedict Cumberbatch, love him, cried. But yeah, do we still have, perhaps, do we perhaps fall into the trap of underestimating that we still do have Caucasian-centric kind of ideals? And once again, alphabetically, Bum?
I absolutely think so. I mean, even if you look using, veering away from Hollywood and maybe using Disney as an example, I had complained about it before and I'll complain about it again. Frozen was racist as fuck. Because the original story had people that were ethnically diverse, and it was completely changed. And we tend to do this with a lot of stories, simply because, and the excuse I hear all the time is, and this goes for queer actors too, that there aren't any of them around, which is a lie. Like, walking in school, which is predominantly black, I'm pretty much the only white kid there. I know handfuls of people that want to ditch the engineering program and become actors and actresses, but Hollywood likes to trick itself into thinking that there's nobody out there that could possibly play this role, so we just need to make the character white. And it's a shame, because there are so many decent storylines out there, but they get totally sullied by the lack of ethnic diversity and the potential to have a better storyline because of it, because there are so many people with different customs and ideas, and obviously there will be conflict and resolution, and it's sad, and it's definitely still very prevalent.
Ah, okay. Coquipirate, your view?
You mentioned Oscars, and you didn't mention it. That was like a core part of it. But I think there's something noteworthy to be said about the amount of actors that make it into movies and, you know, the demographics that tend to win awards. Well, I think they've started to curb this trend a bit. And I'm not saying that the Oscars are using racial discrimination in terms of this, but historically, and to a certain degree still today, when we talk about, like, black actors, and just to a lesser extent black actresses, you see them in a lot more comedy films, or films that don't seem as likely to be as artsy or likely to get an award. I wish we could objectively quantify, like, or maybe we probably can, I just didn't do my homework, you know, what demographics tend to be cast in what kind of movies. But I do think that when it comes to a lot of the, not just bigger titles in terms of money, but, you know, in terms of art, a lot of the bigger projects seem to favor using white actors and white characters. And, yeah, the issue is that, on the one hand, we really wish that we could just be colorblind about the whole thing and not pay any mind to whether or not an actor is black, white, you know, sub-Asian, East Asian, or whatever, or Latino, or name your demographic. But we kind of have to be aware of these things to see sort of like systemic, I guess, discrimination. But yeah, it's pretty frustrating. I mean, you know, I can't really speak too much about the African American community, but as a Latino, I remember there was once upon a time in the 90s where Latinos were like in every movie, and a whole bunch of Latino singers were getting popular, but it was just a trend. You know, it was exotic for a little while, and then we were forgotten about. And yeah, it's kind of hard for, you know, a demographic to be cemented as the norm. And also, we'd have to look at it over a long period of time to make sure that things have genuinely changed. Because, you know, there was a point in history that you would think, wow, Latin American acceptance in the U.S. must be really good. They're completely integrated in all their media. And then later on, you see, no, it was just a fashion thing, you know, everyone had. And after Latinos, I think it was like the Jewish thing, which I thought was interesting. Ben Stiller was in every movie, and there were a lot of big Jewish actors. But, yeah, these kinds of things are definitely, you know, not resolved yet, and we have a lot of work to do.
Okay, so Philip, your thoughts?
I've not yet had the privilege of watching 12 Years a Slave, so I will get round to that. But I would like to say that the only other subject matter that came near to that kind of adulation would be Roots, if I remember back in the day, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. So I'm hoping that 12 Years a Slave will sort of like balance that out and level out just as much as that did in its day. I kind of like the idea that films of that nature are being looked upon and applauded and saying, well, this is well done, but I don't know. Do they necessarily? I mean, I'm hoping that the Oscars, the awards that they win, are for actually the subject matter rather than the people that are playing them. If you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm hoping. I'm happy they won the awards, but like I say, fair enough. The young lady that gave that speech. Like I said, I haven't seen the film, so I will watch the film, and I will be obviously giving my own point of view on that in my own mind. So yeah, I'm quite happy the way things are with it, and I don't think it's too stereotyping to always give the award to the black actors or actresses because of what they've done in the film.
Oh, okay. Do you think we still have a problem in our culture of that there is a kind of I keep forgetting the term of an ideal, whether it's
Caucasian normative,
a Caucasian normative ideal?
I don't know, because to be honest with you, there are not many films that have come up in the Oscars of that nature, really. Once in a blue moon. So I should say we do have. a problem with it because we don't really have like a lot of films of that genre winning awards.
Well, how do you think ethnic minority actors are normally cast then, and are they often not the kind of thing that get that kind of high-profile attention?
No, I mean, as Koki said about alluding to people going in, black actors or actually going into comedy and being more recognised for comedy rather than serious filmmaking. That's how I see black actors and actresses are normally pigeonholed as comedy,
right.
as in like Whoopi Goldberg and the likes of her. They're more known for their comedy rather than their serious outtakes.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And next up, we have you, James.
Right, so three points of discussion. First of all, is the world still Caucasian-centric? Yes, and I'll discuss that in a second. Next, the casting and portrayal of ethnic minorities, LGBT individuals, just the demographics of film in general. Oh, you only ever see black characters as the wacky sidekick or as the comic relief, that sort of thing. Mm-hmm. And third, my opinion on 12 Years as a Slave itself. So, first of all, the Caucasian normative, yes. If you were to look at a photograph of a white, middle-class, middle-aged husband, wife, and 2.4 white smiling children with brown hair, what have you, with the big house, the nice lawn, etc., no matter what anyone in the world says, that is the norm, that is the standard for everyone. Even someone like me who is white, hetero, cisgendered, etc., I'm not rich enough to fit that profile. Teresa and I aren't married, so our relationship is inferior, and we don't have children, so again, our relationship is inferior. It's not, the fact that black people, Latinos, LGBT people, they're all far away from that, but everyone is always judged by that normative standard. The fact that the actress in question was raised in Kenya, race realists, racists, scum on the internet ask, well, you talk about white privilege in white countries, but what about black privilege in black countries? There is none. The one scene in Lord of War which springs to mind when Nicolas Cage's character is wandering stoned, drugged out of his mind through a slum in an African town. A little girl who's had her arm blown off. Another little girl says, "Ask the white man, he will know." Because, he's white, automatically he's more knowledgeable. That is the attitude around the world. Sometimes, oh, you're black, so you're better at sport. You're Asian, East Asian, so you play an instrument, or you're good at gymnastics. It's all that comparison to how you are compared to white people. Just one thing in defence of Japan, though, because manga and anime are always criticised for the fact that they depict predominantly Japanese characters as white. The large eyes, the pale skin, the different hair colours, etc. That was never intended to be, white, Caucasian centrism, the fact that the Caucasian normative is an influence there, but it's also the fact that white people are easier to draw. Quite literally.
Well,
especially,
I feel like a lot of the people who say those kinds of things are just kind of projecting. I mean, anime characters being drawn the way they are is no different from the Simpsons characters being drawn the way they are. We imagine them as white because we see them as the default. They don't have any markers to make them foreign. Japanese people see them as Japanese people because unless they have a marker to make them foreign, and they usually like elongate the nose, and you'll see that they give them curlier hair. You can distinguish the characters that are American from the characters that are Japanese, or the characters that are European, rather.
Yeah. Sorry, Bob.
Oh, I was gonna say, to interject. When people make the excuse that drawing white characters is easier, I would like to call absolute bullshit. Because the fact of the matter is, the only reason they think drawing white characters is easy is because they have been surrounded by white people the entire time in the media, so those are the features they automatically think of. But if they would just take a moment and actually look at other people of different races, it's not that difficult to draw people of other races, and as a matter of fact, it's much more beautiful, in my opinion, because then it's not completely homogenous. So, those people are full of shit!
I was referring specifically to the fact that white skin tones are easier to mix, or at least back in the days when everything was done by hand. It was easier to get a white type of skin tone. But as you say, that is a major issue. But getting back to the two issues, so getting on to the casting of non-white people, non-straight people, etc. in films. Yes, the fact that the fact that being white and straight and cisgendered and middle class is the norm means that the only time we ever really see more than two black characters or two minority characters of any kind in a film is when it is in a film about slavery. The only time we see more than two poor people in a film is when it's in a film about poverty. So while I genuinely appreciate Philip's point about the subject matter, that yes, films about slavery are vital, we do need to be showing people that yes, this did happen and it was this brutal, something that textbooks can never do. It is. I am looking forward to the day when black actors, Latino actors, Asian actors, LGBT actors, we'll get onto this later, man, can be something other than the wacky sidekick or the funny roommate or the gay or the comic relief. So on and so forth. And finally, 12 Years as a Slave itself. As much as I applaud the film for its unflinching depiction of the horrors of slavery, as Alex pointed out, the most, beyond the violence and the rape, essentially, the thing that really stood out for me was the total dehumanization. It was the norm of their day that black people with dark skin were cattle. The way that the person selling the cattle said, "Oh yes, this boy will grow up to be a fine beast." You scum. I think I've developed a hatred for the actor. And also, Benedict Cumberbatch is a wonderfully complex character in that you do get the feeling that the only reason he owns slaves is that he is trying to give them the best life possible in a world where the only options are to be bought by him and use the slaves, or to be bought by someone who's even worse. So the fact that he buy. Excuse me. He buy. I'm a rapper. He tries to keep a mother and her children together when the slave trader is trying to sell them separately because they'll make more of a profit that way. So he tries to keep them all together, but he can't, and you can see the heartbreak in his face. But as much as I praise 12 Years as a Slave, if you look at the formula and also the sudden appearance of Brad Pitt in a supporting role for no apparent reason, the fact is, if you know enough about the Oscars and Oscar bait, as it's called, 12 Years as a Slave was made primarily to win Oscars. This year's Oscar ceremony should have had the subtitle, "Look at us, aren't we so progressive?" Not wanting to spoil for Phillip because he still hasn't seen the film, Brad Pitt as the Canadian carpenter who out of nowhere just gives this profound and heroic speech about the evils of slavery. That they aren't property, they're human as well. You're going for an Oscar, and it's your bad luck that a more token character, Jared Leto, as the token trans sidekick, was also in the running this year. You got out tokened, son. So yeah,
we get
But also, finally, just again to point out my praise for the film itself. Another thing Alex pointed out, the way that when the main character Solomon North has almost been lynched, the slave owner manages to scare off the lynchers, but he is left hanging there, standing on tiptoe, slowly choking to death. And instead of cutting away, the camera stays there, and we see it for what feels like an eternity. With other slaves walking past because they're too afraid to go near him. One slave woman does bring him some water, but then quickly runs away because it's just the common knowledge: if anyone tries to cut him down, they will be punished as well. Again, it's just such a deeply disturbing but necessary insight into that reality.
Okay, and believe it or not, in this Doctor Who / Oscars special, we do actually have another Doctor Who topic. So, without too much further ado, I'd like to introduce a guest from last week. So, reintroduce a man who's just joined us, Dr. Smith. Hello.
How you doing?
And actually, something everybody else did was, this is rather thrown on you, a thing from this week. Do you have a special thing from this week to mention?
Anything in particular you would like me to bring up?
I don't know. I saw the Oculus trailer, for example. You could just say, actually, that's the point. If you see the trailer, like, what do you think of the Guardians of the Galaxy trailer, or something like that?
That wasn't bad. Really, the one thing that I was kind of peeking at just before you called me in earlier was Netflix released the new season of Clone Wars for Star Wars, and I was looking at the piece on that, and it looks like it might be good.
Oh, that's interesting. Oh,
cool. Well, we have a Doctor Who question here, this is actually threefold, so I hope everyone can keep up. It's about Doctor Who historicals. Should Doctor Who return to pure historicals, as in you don't necessarily need a monster, you could just do a story about Napoleon, something like that, common in the early days of the classic series. So, should Doctor Who return to pure historicals, which is your favourite historical adventure, and which as yet unexplored era or figure would you like to see? And I've lost track of whether it's alphabetical or... but we've got a new person, so I'm just going to be alphabetical and start with Bun again.
I think it would be good if we started doing some more historical adventures again, just because they really were kind of interesting. Like, I know part of the reason why I love playing the Assassin's Creed series so much is because it basically is just like a story within a huge historical context. So, I've always been really happy with those storylines. My personal favorite is actually from the more recent Doctor Who. The Van Gogh one was a really hard hitter for me, just because Van Gogh is my favorite artist. I, as an artist, related to it, and it made me cry so hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it was amazing. And I think if we get more stuff like that, it would be really, really interesting.
Aha. Okay. And Dr. Freedom? Oh, sorry. No, hang on. Alphabetical. Sorry. I do this every week. Coquipirate.
Yes. I haven't seen old 2. I've only seen the historical-esque things, but, like Bun's example with Van Gogh, that had an alien in it. Pompeii, which I thought was nice that they had a new setting that also had, an alien turn to it. But I certainly would like to see that. I'd certainly, if for no other reason, and granted, this goes outside of just a historical thing, but just so that they play around with other settings. I mean, was the Pompeii one the only one that they filmed outside of the UK? I think they did it in Malta, which I'm not saying they have to move around, but creating. Oh, what are you gonna say?
The Planet of the Dead was filmed outside of the UK, and don't forget, Angels Take Manhattan was actually filmed in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Okay. Playing around with new locations would be cool. Space, I guess it's the new strange and exotic lands for us, but we still do have, places all over the world that could be visited. And I don't think that they have to put in a sci-fi thing every single time.
Exactly,
especially if it can be made, educational. I think that our world and, various historical events can, give people that same sense of awe. If I had to pick a setting, I'd say that I'm particularly curious about, I guess it doesn't even have to be Mozambique or Kenya, but the Swahili coast during when Indian Ocean trade was getting pretty big. So around 1000 AD, anywhere between 1000 AD to 1500 AD.
Okay.
Well, hey, you could even go later than that. You could have Portuguese pirates, which would be kind of cool. I certainly like the idea of because this was a point in time where you had Chinese people visiting Africa, African people in India, Indian people in Arabia. There was a lot of traveling around and pirates and whatnot. It's just
and we're back to ethnic diversity.
Well, yeah, ethnic diversity and everything's just you have all of these cool little cultures. You have the turbans and all sorts of cool stuff. So if I had to pick a point in time. If they did it right, if they did it well, that could be fantastic. I noticed you mentioned things like, obviously, Fires of Pompeii is an example of something new Doctor Who does a lot, which is they tailor the monster because it's actually a volcanic monster.
Yeah.
Similar to Dickens met ghosts, Shakespeare met witches. Obviously, the ghosts and witches are really aliens. The article mentions the Agatha Christie one, and yes, they could have just had Agatha Christie and there's actually a murder mystery. So it could have been like Black Orchid, but with Agatha Christie as a character. But also the bee monster thing, because Agatha Christie once had a cover that looked like it had a giant bee on it. And the actual historical fact they use, that yes, Agatha Christie actually did disappear for 2 weeks with no memory.
Yeah.
They had so much to work with, they didn't need a fucking giant bee. Purely historical, and you mentioned educational as well, whereas, I don't know if I'm repeating myself, but there actually were things I learned about the Aztecs, because I love that story from Doctor Who. So, Dr. Smith?
Do you want me to answer all those questions, or just one at a time?
If you could do, those three in sequence, so a solid block of you.
Should Doctor Who return to historicals? Yes, I do think they should. However, I don't think they should just purely focus on just that. The show is a science fiction show. I think an episode, maybe 2 a season, would be good. As far as my favorite historicals, I'm with the bun on the Van Gogh story. It was really good, I felt. As far as who in history I would want to see on Doctor Who, I've been saying this for a couple of years now. Nikola Tesla, I think, would be huge on Doctor Who.
Who is he? Who is he?
Shame on you.
Oh, give me a break.
Shame on you. Let's put it this way. Edison gets most of the credit for things that Tesla discovered.
Ah.
And I think it would be... What's that? Did somebody say
how I did not think of Tesla. I'm agreeing with Dr. Smith. That's my new favorite. I need to do that, like now.
Tesla in Doctor Who, the Doctor, I should say, would be an incredible story if it was with the right writer. And they wouldn't even necessarily have to throw in the alien of the week, and it could be a good story. It'd be strong. But again, I think it all boils back down to what we talk about most of the time, which is who would write it. And I'd like to see somebody like Gatiss tackle it.
Well, definitely rather Mark Gatiss. Mark Gatiss can do historicals. Moffat knows he can't. But, actually, apart from Empty Child and Dr. Dances, and I did actually like the Girl in the Fireplace, but generally, actually, Dr. Smith, as you're a classic fan as well, do you have a favourite classic series historical, like a Hartnell era one?
I haven't really gotten to watch most of those. I did see most of the Aztecs, but I was busy doing something when I was watching it, so I didn't really get to ever finish it. It's back up on Netflix, so anybody that's interested in watching it can watch it. I'll get around to it at some point. I do recall, I'm positive it was Baker, that had H.G. Wells on in one episode.
Yeah, that was Colin Baker's Time Lash.
Colin Baker had H.G. Wells. H.G. Wells is referred to in Pyramids of Mars, and there were some Wellsian themes. But yeah, it's the Sixth Doctor, Colin Baker, that actually met H.G. Wells, yeah.
But as far as it goes, I'd probably have to lean towards the Aztecs because, that's really the first real classic Who that I've seen that dealt with history.
Oh, okay.
I would like to see Marco Polo for all the talk and hype that it's had over the years, but I don't really want to watch photographs of it. I'd rather wait for the rumored full deal.
Yeah.
Touch wood, they found it. Okay, Philip.
Do I think that historical should be returning to Doctor Who? Yeah, because for one, I mean they're of learning base in any case, and there are many points in human history that can be explored, which hasn't really been tackled. And there is a problem that people say they might be boring to watch, but if they're done properly and in the frame of as we mentioned, Marco Polo, then they could work. My favourite would have to be, because I watched this a couple of nights ago, would be The Crusade. I've watched that because it's got the actual 2 episodes, live episodes, and then you've got the audio things to it. So I watched that, and I really enjoyed that, particularly in regards to watching Julian Glover play King Richard, and then Jean Marsh being this. Yep. Joanna, the sister. That's a brilliant historical. And as for a future historical, I wouldn't mind them touching something like I was thinking about it. It's got out of my head now. I was thinking about it as well. What was it I was thinking about? But things like the missing people, like Amelia Earhart, what happened to her, or or Buddy Holly, what happened to those people.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. Don't you know, Amelia Earhart ended up in the Delta Quadrant.
It's interesting that Philip brought that up, because what if the possibility presented itself to have Amelia Earhart be a companion of the Doctor, and then when she leaves, she goes to another planet?
Yeah,
that's
very good.
I think we're kind of missing the concept of a pure historical.
I mean, you could start it out as a pure historical.
Yeah, but I know.
Elsewhere, bring the character on. Why not?
Yeah.
That there's a precedent. The Mythmakers, Katerina, or James loves Katerina. So it would be like the Mythmakers ending with the historical character joining the TARDIS crew.
Yes.
Person. Hopefully this time not dying. Okay, that was perhaps the single greatest death in the history of television. But come on, that was too young, too soon.
What's interesting though, will viewers of today be up for historical? We're all saying let's have them, but do we think that kids that watch it now could sit on their bums and watch a historical and not go, "Where's the monsters? I'm bored." That kind of thing.
I think Philip, that kids, if they were entertained, are going to be able to sit through anything on Doctor Who as long as it's an interesting story.
Yeah.
Give kids more credit. I mean, I grew up with Hysteria, which was an educational...
Great Def Leppard album.
Well, yeah, I guess it was a bit more absurd, but, kids don't mind learning, and I don't think that there has to be a monster in every episode to keep kids interested.
Yes, true.
Yeah.
And like I said, Doctor Who's got a wealth of time to explore without having monsters in it, so they got plenty of scope to choose which historical point they want to jump on.
And James, your thoughts?
Okay, should Doctor Who return to purely historical episodes? My gut feeling is yes, but it goes back to what so many other people have said. Who is going to write it? Can we trust Moffat? I trust Moffat to do two things: to oversee the creation of crowd-pleasing, family-entertaining fanwang, and to die horribly in a viciously painful accident that can in no way be related back to me. So, again, the idea of returning to pure historicals, it gives me such a warm glow inside, but no, they're never going to do that. As much as I agree with Cokie that we should give children more credit, Moffat doesn't give any of his audience credit. Unless there is a massive change, not only in the writers of Doctor Who, the writing team of Doctor Who, but television in general, these kind of pure historicals, they're the kind of thing that would be shown on BBC 4. So, again, as much as I would like to, I just don't see it as the kind of thing that can be done in the 21st century. As for my favourite historical episode, miniseries, effectively, serial, that's the term, from the classic era, Marco Polo, the Genghis Khan. I've only seen it as still shots with the overlay of the audio, but it is still such an awesome story. Remember when Doctor Who used to be about the story and the characters? Oh, those were the days.
Can I just say...
Oh, go ahead, Phil.
Yeah, can I just say, in regard to historical, I would like to see a story where the Doctor goes back to the time of the creation of the atom bomb with what was his name? I can't say his name. Oppenheimer.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to have it transpire that the Doctor's trying to prevent that from being happened, or prevent it from happening because of the future of the atom bomb, and it turns out that the meddling monk was the one that's behind the creation of it.
Interesting premise, again, would that really count as a historical? That would be more kind of the Peter Davison episode where they go back to the signing of the Magna Carta, and they've kidnapped King John, replaced him with a shape-shifting robot, and Getting back to the third question, what period in history would I like to see? I'd like to see a writer actually research the subject and know what they are talking about, a la Aztecs, with real historical information, not a 21st century bastardization parody of history in order to look good, which is why, unfortunately, I just don't think that kind of historical television can be brought into the 21st century. The one place I would like to see, though, is China, or the Chinese in Victorian England, as something other than criminals, opium dealers, and so on and so forth. I joke about the racism against the Chinese in Doctor Who, but it is just so blatant. The Aztecs, the depiction of the Muslims, the Arabs, the Persian Empire in the Crusade serial, other examples of genuine ethnic diversity, not portraying them as villains or as saints, but just other human beings with their own motives, their own being basically no different from we are, but always the Chinese are evil or manipulated by evil or somehow have some ulterior motive. So that's one thing I would like to see fixed. But yes, I'll put that on my wish list right above my own harem of anime sex slaves, and below a flying cat that dispenses harps.
Okay. Yes, I actually can envisage, apart from all the racism, we are overlooking that the Chinese are a bunch of communists.
Exactly.
But if somebody were to try and pitch to Stephen Moffat something like The Black Death or World War One, they said, okay, but how about this? Everybody lives! But yes. Well, I think we're now ready to move on to what I think is going to be a somewhat explosive topic. Yes. How do I even introduce this? Okay. There was an attempt... Okay, right. The film that won this year's category for film trying hardest to win an Oscar is something called the Dallas blah 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 blah. Where somebody called Jared Leto, who has been in such films as The Thin Red Line, Fight Club, Girl Interrupted, American Psycho, and even Lord of War, has finally won an Oscar. Essentially what, I'll say Dallas Buyers Club, I fear if I say the title I'm summoning it, is trying to be a real-life story about HIV and AIDS in the 80s. But makes the main character, who is a real-life bisexual man, into a straight person, and then invents an LGBTQ character in the form of a supposedly trans woman, not especially well played by Mr. Leto, it has to be said. I found this film quite painful to watch. I think what I said at the time was, comparing these two Oscar films, 12 Years a Slave and Dallas Buyers Club, each made me turn to alcohol, but for different reasons. And essentially, the film marginalizes LGBTQ people into one fictional character, an utterly unrealistic portrayal of a trans woman, who is the plucky, quirky sidekick, who is white knighted at least twice, and of course is the victim who dies at the end. There's also been controversy, not just around the representation of the character, but also the attitude of the filmmakers, comments that have been made, and even Jared Leto's speech, which didn't ever really specifically acknowledge the transgender community, although did try to dedicate the film, I suppose, to 36 million people who have died of AIDS, which looks good on the Oscar platform, I suppose. And yes, I think it's fair to say there have been better HIV and AIDS films. There have been better films about trans people. So it even feels like a step backwards, never mind anything else. So, reverse alphabet. I've been kind to this film compared to what James is about to say. So, James, shoot.
Going back to what you said about needing alcohol for both films, 12 Years as a Slave, the pain. Dallas Buyers Club, the pain. Oh God, the pain. Oh gee, not leaving aside the fact it is so badly made, it is so badly structured, it is so badly edited. Do not cut off in the middle of the heart-wrenching scene where the token trans woman's dad finds out that his son, in inverted commas, child, is dying, and having always treated her with contempt and scorn, now bursts into tears, because finally realising that no matter who you are still my child, and I love you. Just cut away straight from that. That isn't even the worst cuts. And just leaving aside the fact that it is such a badly made film. The voters at the Academy are by and large white, multi-millionaire, cisgendered, heterosexual men over the age of 50. They are from a different generation, hence making the main character straight and a cowboy, because they've all got a fucking John Wayne fetish, standing up against the evil FDA, the federal government, and the pharmaceutical corporations. And literally reducing the whole point of the film, the bigotry against and the suffering of the LGBT community, to a fucking stereotype, a fucking cartoon of the LGBT community. You know, she is the only person who we are actually shown dying of the disease. Yeah. Oh, the straight white cowboy hero. He has AIDS as well, but don't worry, he dies off screen. So it's only flaming fags who die. And oh yes, the translation of transgendered woman, as far as the filmmakers are concerned, is flaming drag queen. And just after she's died, and the tearful scene between the cowboy hero and the token female doctor who's only in the story to be the love interest. He was my friend too. She fucking. The film director asking afterwards, why did you use an actual trans woman in this? Why didn't you cast a trans woman in this role? Oh, are there trans actors? And that's not even. This section of the podcast is just going to be me having a nervous breakdown. The beginning of the.
Oh wait, no, you get to me, friend.
Yeah, Alex, you're going to have to explain that you've had to stop because someone needed to call an ambulance. I'm going to have a heart attack right here. Yeah, and. Again, just this is what I was talking about before in the break about certain films being made purely to win Oscars. It doesn't matter how bad they are. It doesn't matter how offensive they are, as long as they resonate with and are accessible to the group of overwhelmingly straight, white, multi-millionaire, over 60 bastards, Californians. Sorry, I didn't mean to say that all Californians are bastards, but still, that kind of stereotype of the people in the film industry, all patting themselves on the back saying, aren't we so progressive? Completely ignorant of the fact that they are reinforcing the same fucking stereotypes, that they are the problem. The article which compared Jared Leto's Oscar to the Oscar won 70 years ago by the black actress in Gone with the Wind for playing the slave character Mammy. That is the perfect comparison, because in 20, 30, 40 years, people are going to look back on Dallas Buyers Club and fucking cringe. You thought this was progressive? I am ashamed to live in the time when that film is made.
Okay. So, Philip, I appreciate you haven't actually seen this film, but in terms of the broader issues, do you have any input?
The only broader issues I have with it is the fact that I don't understand why they would have employed a non-LGBT actor to play the transgender character. I find that a very bizarre thing to do. Whereas there are many transgender films that depict actors of that caliber. Why couldn't they have just not chosen any of those to take the lead in that character?
Well, yes, indeed. This director has denied all knowledge of trans actors. This did come up recently because, of course, you may remember Coronation Street had a trans woman character.
Yes, Hayley.
Yes, played by a cisgendered woman.
Mm-hmm.
She actually said in an interview, this was a few years ago, she said in an interview that, nowadays they'd cast an actual trans person. And I think it was either The Independent or The Guardian who said that's not actually true, but they wishes it were true. Now, personally, I'm generally not that bothered, because as I say, I grew up with This Life, where I don't know if you ever saw it, but Ferdy, the bisexual character, or so I was like, a bisexual person on television, hooray.
I'm watching that, yes.
Yeah, but that actor was straight.
Was it?
Yeah.
Can I just point out one distinction, though? There is a difference between a heterosexual character playing a gay, bisexual, pansexual, where it's purely attraction, and a transsexual character, especially in undergoing transition, undergoing surgery and hormone therapy to become their true selves. That is not... again, if the makeup and the prosthetics and so forth are good enough, then yes, a straight person can, a cisgendered person, can play that role. But it not necessarily easier, but it would be truer. I don't think it's quite as bad as getting a white person to black up and play a black role, but there is more of that element there.
Okay. I can see it's closer to blacking up. Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Do you have any other thoughts, Philip?
I had to, I would really have to watch the film. Well, is the film available to be watched in some format? Because I would like to watch that and sort of like see what...
To reaffirm how awful it is.
Yeah.
I think you should just watch The Crying Game again.
I think I should, actually, because it's been some years since I watched that, so I will do that.
Can everyone... Just 1992, The Crying Game did such a better job. I can't vouch for whether the actor is actually a trans woman or not, but it was just 1,000 times better in every conceivable possible way. Dr. Smith, again, I know you've not seen the film and you maybe don't have a huge amount of experience in these kinds of issues, but I suppose the real kind of point is just to do with representations of just any kind of minority in the media, and whether they're positive and negative, and whether they're accurate. And I suppose really, if people claim to be representing you, are they actually doing a good job? Well, I suppose the point here is this film is very smugly holding up an Oscar when in fact they've not championed anybody. I think that would be the kind of point. So I don't think you have to have a huge amount of experience of being this kind of minority or that kind of minority. But the media and movies, I mean, there is a problem, isn't there?
I think it boils down to just proper representation of what the LBG community wants, from what I'm gathering. You know, and I think that, you know, if somebody is going to do a film like what you guys are telling me, the Dallas Buyers Club, that, you know, they want proper representation. Am I wrong, or have I totally missed the point? And I apologize if I have. Instead of, you know, fictionalizing a character to make it ridiculous or funny, you know, why not? I mean, you can have that in certain movies, but why not do something to where, you know, it's a little more better represented?
I think the thing here is you need to be reasonably acquainted with these things to realize that Jared Leto is, and I've just realized it, this is a minstrel performance. This is putting boot polish on your face and having white lips and saying that's a black character. This is the LGBTQ equivalent, particularly the trans equivalent. It's only actually just clicked, if 50 years ago a white actor put boot polish on their face but won the Oscar for a moving portrayal of a black person, that's basically what this is. Wow. Do you have anything to add before I move on to Kofi?
Yeah, I think that, you know, I don't recall if we talked about it on or off podcast, but, you know, somebody had said something along the lines of, why didn't they just get somebody that's an actor that you know, was that type of a person to maybe portray it in a better light, you know? But then again, I haven't seen the movie, so I don't even know exactly what the script really called for in terms of this character.
I get the horrible feeling that if a trans actor did turn up to the audition, they would refuse. They would turn down that script because it was such an insult to everything that they were.
But you know, with the way how movies get tweaked and whatnot, and I'm just, you know, throwing out a possibility, you know, had the right people been on board to say, hey, we should bring this type of a person into this role, do you think that maybe they could have fixed that?
Yeah, if there was a trans actor in Hollywood with the kind of power, with the kind of clout, to get that kind of film together, to walk up to the writer of Dallas Buyers Club and say, "Fuck you, I am not speaking these lines."
You know what, though? I feel like, I don't know if anybody here knows about it, but Laverne Cox is actually trying to do that. Right now, that she's currently running a Kickstarter so that she can make a movie starring trans women, and it's all trans characters.
But yeah, we have to link that Kickstarter in the description.
Yes, that link needs to be in the description, and I will donate. I may not be able to donate much, but I will donate. This is exactly what we need to do. Yeah. And Koki, your thoughts?
Well, I'm kind of eager to hear what the Bun has to say, but to delay that just for a minute or so, I do think it's noteworthy that on the story it was based on, the protagonist would be bisexual, and this person is made heterosexual. I mean, bisexual visibility is something that...
Wait a minute, Koki? I apologize, and I want to cut in, because when I was trying to find out what the Dallas Buyers Club was about when it first came out, you're talking about Matthew McConaughey's character being bisexual?
That's what I heard. I haven't seen the movie.
The real-life version of, is it Woodruff?
Right.
Right, the real-life version was actively bisexual. They've made him straight for the movie.
But to my understanding, he wasn't. I apologize if I'm wrong or I read wrong information. They said that he was a drug user, and they never clearly found out how exactly he had contracted HIV, but they believed it had to deal with him using drugs, not in any way sexually transmitted, or that he had any type of that. In fact, what I had read was he wasn't bisexual or even gay.
What's this person's name again? I'm gonna consult a higher power.
The surname is Woodruff. I forget the first name of the.
Are you
James.
consulting the great god Google?
Yes.
Or Wiki. From what I've
Jeffrey
read,
Woodruff. Daniel Woodruff.
Was Dan? I can't remember if his name was Dan.
I was too busy screaming at the film to hear his... And, oh yes, never mind the fact that everyone fucking mumbled! Can you speak up?
Ron Woodruff.
Why are these films always set in places where I don't understand the accent?
His real name was Ron Woodruff.
Ron Woodruff, okay.
Okay. Well...
Anything I read, Sorry, carry on.
Okay, so I just meant to say that, and now I don't even know how valid a point this is, but, typically, we live in a society that's very prone to not pay much attention to the existence of bisexuals, and, you know, granted, because at any given time, a bisexual is likely to be in a relationship with a man or a woman. I mean, I guess it could be, or, you know, is single, or I guess they could be polyamorous. But, you know, typically we like to lump people in one box or the other. If they're with one, they're one thing. If they're with another, then they're the other thing. And that's kind of sad. If they're really taking out this, you know, element of the story that does have to do with the gender and sexual minority community. But then to add insult to that is, while making the protagonist straight, throwing in this token, you know, trans character. Yeah, it just seems like a very... insensitive isn't the right word. But yeah... Huh?
Sorry, Coquipirate. I'm just thinking the total whitewashing, blinding out of bisexuality, especially in this kind of film, especially in this kind of portrayal. This could be a section on its own.
It could well. Yeah, I'm going to say I think generally speaking, because obviously You Don't Exist is something that you get as a bisexual. With so many things, can I list them? In television terms in the UK, bisexual men have reached the same status as lesbian and bisexual women, which is they can only write you if they over-sexualize you and exotify you.
Yes.
Case study, Captain Jack.
Exactly.
Yeah. And every character in Torchwood by the end, I think.
Yeah, that's just frustrating. But they're making this token character, and, you know, I guess, I don't know about where you guys live, but there's a lot of ignorance on the topic of, you know, transsexuals, transgenders, transgender people, and the issues associated with it. People here seem to be under the impression that, I've actually said this before, but I'll say it again. People seem to be under the impression that trans people are just gay people that go Super Saiyan or something.
Oh, God.
Oh, yes. The assumption that gender and sexuality are linked and taken to its ultimate extreme.
So, the fact that this person's pronouns, you know, aren't being respected, it's still a he, and people are referring to this person as he, you know, kind of feeds into the idea that he's just really, 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 really gay, as opposed to she being a woman, which,
Hence my description of him as just the token flaming drag queen. as opposed to because that thing, was not in inverted commas was not a trans woman in any respect.
And Rebecca Watson made this point, and James, I noticed that you linked this article on Facebook. Have you not seen the ultra macho gay men? Have you never seen a girly lesbian?
Yeah, exactly. And one of this is a point I made to you, Alex. One friend of mine on Facebook is an ultra girly woman. She is so petite. She's obsessed with pink. She's studying fashion. She collects Barbie dolls, even though she's almost 20 and she's a lesbian.
Wow.
So again, would you go back in time and kill Hitler? No, I would go back in time and kill Kinsey, the person who created the Kinsey scale, the connecting sexuality to gender.
Okay, so Bun, your thoughts?
Okay. It occurs to me lately that the point of nearly all GSRM representation has been how terribly we suffer. It's been detrimental to the public understanding of our very existence. While people need to be aware that the struggles that we tend to go through, it's not at all acceptable to represent us as the chess piece that dies in an act of out-of-the-closet bravery. We're not toys, we don't want pity, we want respect. Jared Leto played a character much like Angel from Rent, a cis man playing a trans woman with no understanding of what being a trans woman is like, and then making a mockery of what it means to be trans. And hell, at least in the end of Rent, when Angel died, everyone at least had the fucking sense and respect to call her by her proper fucking pronouns. I'm going to shove a hammer into Jared Leto's anus and make him beg for mercy. I'm gonna kill him! There was no representation in terms of making this character look like a human being. Never, ever was there any representation of GSRM without some tragic backstory. Never can we be normal characters. You never get the action movie with the cool hero that happens to be gay. It's ridiculous. Not only this, but Leto, despite claiming to have learned so much from his experience, proved to have only learned to please a crowd. Well, if that crowd is white, straight, and cisgender. He managed to go on an entire acceptance speech without actually saying the word transgender. Also, Jared Leto is the last person you want to cast for the role of a trans woman. Trans women are murdered and raped and maimed constantly, and Jared Leto, who's been known to sexually assault and even rape his groupies, is like making a lion play a gazelle. It's disgusting, and I'm sick of seeing this shit. He's disgusting, he's terrible, and the director's excuse? There's no trans women in the media. Have you not seen Laverne Cox? Have you not seen Janet Mock? Nah, that would be too fucking correct. The director's words were never. Are there any trans actors? I'm not aiming for the real thing. I'm aiming for an experienced actor who can portray the thing. Thing? Things! No, fuck that. Trans women are not things. How dare you? How fucking dare you? I hate you so much. I'm going to make him eat his own testicles. I'm going to rip off his fingernails and make him eat an elephant's anus. I'm going to make him scream for mercy and then chop off his dick so that even if he has already procreated, he cannot further his conquest to fill this planet with more facts. The rage I have for this film, this director, and Jared Leto can be measured to the intensity of 10 billion suns. Dallas Buyers Club deserves an Oscar for being the biggest piece of shit filled with the worst pieces of literal human trash ever made in the 21st century.
Come on, guys.
That was rather creative. Wow.
Yes, I sense myself in you, Bun. I think the phrase you were looking for was my hatred burns with the white-hot intensity of 1,000 suns, but that's just the way I would have phrased it.
I was going to write it that way, but I can't breathe. I'll explain later.
Again, it usually takes me a day to recover after a rant like that, so I speak from experience. But Yes. Oh, one other point, if we have time for, we're only at the 4.5-minute mark, but one of the points regarding the atrocity that was Dallas Buyers Club, leaving aside the atrocity of the LGBT farce, the fact that the protagonist of the film is supposed to be a hero for providing life-saving antiviral drugs to AIDS patients that weren't approved by the FDA at that time, so they were technically illegal. The fact that he was a black marketeer, that he was profiting from the suffering and death of other human beings. The scene when he turns down a presumably gay man who was infected with HIV or dying of AIDS because he only had $50. Judging from what I saw of him, he was in shadow. He looked like a Latino, maybe an illegal immigrant, maybe just works washing dishes, mopping floors. We don't know. But he could only scrape together $50. Holds up the $50 to the rest of the queue, the dozens of people standing in line waiting to live for another month. This was back when, yes, HIV did kill you in a matter of months because there was no recognised treatment. Holding up the money and saying, "Listen, people, it's $400 a month." And I can't remember if you literally said the word, "If you want to live, you give me the cash." And for this guy to be portrayed in any way as a hero, and again, would you portray someone who smuggled food into concentration camps during the Holocaust as a hero? Again, the hatred. Yes.
Yes.
Has anything to say to that? I don't believe it.
Seems to be the theme of this.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry?
I think it just captures the spirit of this segment right now.
Well, the actual initial plan, if this was true, that he can't sell the drugs, he can sell the memberships, and then the drugs are free, that was actually a surprisingly clever plan, given he was portrayed as this uneducated bigot.
That's another issue with it. The fact that apparently the real person, the person in real life upon whom this film is unbelievably loosely based, like giving a blonde woman, changing a blonde woman's name to Genghis Khan and saying that a romantic comedy is based on a true story. I've forgotten where. Oh yes, the fact that there's no evidence that in real life the person himself was uneducated, bigoted, homophobic, racist, anything like that. He starts off being homophobic as fuck and also racist. Why would you want to work for a bunch of sand niggers? But then, halfway through the film, he's cleaned himself up. He's a businessman jetting all over the world to get the drugs, which in turn he then, quote-unquote, which he then offers to the quote-unquote members of his club. He doesn't sell them. If he was selling them, he'd still be selling them for a profit. It's only towards the end, when he's actually dying himself, that he finally starts reducing the price and giving the drugs away to people who can't afford them. Bit fucking late!
Is it bad that the more negative things there are about the character throughout the film, the more glad I am that he wasn't a representative of bisexual people?
No, that is true. We do have time maybe to talk about this. The fact that to this day, bisexual men are blamed, truly held responsible for spreading the gay plague to the good, clean, normal, straight people. Yeah, so that would have been a serious issue for the film to tackle, which it just was not ready to tackle. This is what I said before about Moffat not being able to handle historical Doctor Who episodes multiplied by 1 billion. You know, they just could not handle the profound kind of issue, not social and historical issue, of portraying a bisexual man who yes, perhaps did contract HIV through drug abuse. But then, no, you got it from gay sex and you gave it to women, therefore you're a criminal. The same kind of thing as the Kill the Gays bill now in Uganda. Well, it's now a law, for fuck's sake. Yeah. Again, decades later, we are still dealing with this shit.
As I was saying when I was trying to appraise one of the most popular British sitcoms of all time, Only Fools and Horses, in, I think it was 1990, the top laugh of an episode was a reference to HIV and AIDS, where the Raquel character says, what is it? AIDS is like nylon, man-made. And the sense of the context and the sense of the scene is, men made AIDS, and then some of those men who made AIDS together had sex with women, which is almost an incitement to hate crime. Biggest laughter and applause of the show. Popular sitcom in the UK, 1990.
And we like to think that we've come so far since then, but then... Never mind.
I feel like a great final word for this whole matter is just...
Yes, it's not just that I want to... it's not just that I can appreciate Bunn's desire to torture the Jared Leto and the writer and the director of this shit and the producer and everyone at the studio. It's just, this is an argument that humanity should not exist anymore. When you hear people arguing that humanity is doomed, I oppose them until I see something like Dallas Buyers Club and say, yes, there is no hope for us. Pass the cyanide.
Are you suggesting that this film is actually an anti-natalist recruitment film?
It could very well... That is the only possible reason for it to exist.
So if we ever want to start up a completely negative, nihilistic suicide pact among this group, we only have to all watch this film.
Yes, seriously, and I can name a couple of others.
Okay, does anybody have any closing thoughts?
Thanks, Obama.
So Dallas Buyers Club. Dear listeners, if you're interested in seeing this film, it is available from Satan's anus. And I think possibly on to the next topic then.
There's more?
Okay, so Bum has very unfortunately been called away to one of the camps to be exterminated by that one of the 3 Daleks with gold. No one's going to understand that reference. However, my favourite Dalek extermination actually it's either Maverick Chen towards the end of the Dalek master plan, as he realizes you can't trust these fuckers, or it's the sort of sacrifice of the Dalek controller towards the end of Day of the Daleks. And going in the order I can fucking see you, and because I don't care about the fucking alphabet, Phillip, your favourite Dalek extermination.
Favourite Dalek extermination? I think the one from... the one that Con Baker was in. Revelation Dalek, is that right?
Possibly.
Where the woman's secretary, the man, who when he was exterminated by the Dalek in her office. That's my favourite Dalek extermination. Because the way he screamed and yelled and writhed around him before he fell, that was quite classic for me.
Was that when he was dying of, like, some kind of germ plague thing?
That's the story. That's the... Within the Daleks. That's the one with Davros. Terry Malloy's first Davros story.
Mm-hmm.
And
that's correct, yeah.
And I can't remember the character's name, but he was like a secretary to the female, to the woman.
But he's like all distorted facially. He's like, what's happening to me?
No, not him.
No, that's Revelation of the Daleks.
Oh yes, sorry, Revelations of Daleks.
He's a Herbert. She describes Davros as a spider that sits at the helm of Necros.
That's right. Yes. Well, her manservant, whatever he was, I like the way he died because he was like very wobbling and wibbling, and then he just collapsed. That was quite funny.
And as I'm going by the order in which I see my minions, the next is Coquipirate.
Okay, it's favorite Dalek extermination or favorite Dalek moment?
Oh, well, whatever.
Okay, no, because I was thinking about that first time the Daleks appear in New Who, when I first see them go over the stairs, because they go up the stairs, it's like, haha, and it's like, oh shit. So, yes.
I think, that's Remembrance of the Daleks. Where he thinks he can escape them, and like, aha, no, we do go upstairs.
Can I just
Sorry.
interject that my favourite Dalek moment, apart from extermination, is also when in Evil of the Daleks, the newborn Daleks are playing trains with the Doctor.
Oh yes. If Evil Daleks came back, and the human Daleks,
Alpha, Omega, and a Beta, and
would love to see it done properly. Can I point out, actually, the death of the controller in Day of the Daleks ties in with earlier discussions, because of discussions that have occurred between James and I about the good slave owner and did they save lives, where the controller made the argument he was the collaborator, and he argues with John Pertwee's Doctor, I have saved lives.
Yes.
But his final words are, who knows, I may have helped to exterminate you, and then they kill him, and that's a fucking brilliant moment. And now we have, because I'm looking at you in the order that I can see you, we have James, the best Dalek death.
I can't believe nobody else has mentioned it before. Davros, Genesis of the Daleks.
Oh,
but I created you! You must obey me! And finally reaching for the self-destruct button because he realizes too late what he has created. But, the hand reaching out, but then the pain... Yeah. That and I was overall favourite Dalek moments when Sylvester McCoy is in the Hand of Omega is parodying Davros. Davros is talking about conquering the galaxy and so forth. Total domination, unlimited power, unlimited rice pudding.
I will say that what you just mentioned there about Genesis of the Daleks and Davros' death, that did shock me when I was a child when I first originally watched that. That kind of scared me a bit because the way he died was quite traumatic.
Indeed. Again, not necessarily horror, but going way back to what we were saying before about the tone of Doctor Who when it actually relied on great acting. It was just a hand. You didn't see anything. It was a hand reaching for a red button.
Yep.
A circular piece of plastic, and just the scream of pain, the light, and the hand recoiling. And you don't have to. It's one of those things that you just don't have to see, and it still stays with you.
Yes, very effective.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
you don't need CGI and special effects, but try telling that to the young people today. Do they believe you? No way. And sorry.
And I remember when a Doctor Who character died and they blooming well stayed dead. Oh. And Dr. Smith.
Well, James kind of took what I had in mind, actually, which was Davros is a great, kill for the Daleks, but I also have to say, in the same episode, Niter, the chief of security that was basically kissing Davros' ass the whole episode. Actually, when he got zapped, I was kind of like, yeah, this guy's a dick. That's probably, aside from Dalek, the best Dalek episode I've seen. And there's a lot to choose from, of course. We could split hairs. But the two that stick out at me right now are those two, due to the fact that Genesis was probably the first Dalek episode I ever seen. What was it? Was it Destiny of the Daleks, the next Tom Baker episode?
Yeah.
I don't really remember a lot of that other than Romana 2 popping up and the disco hair from the... you know what I'm talking about, the silver disco.
Novellans.
Yeah, the Novellans having the really bad hair. And then Davros coming back, which was kind of cool, but... Aside from that, I couldn't tell you one thing about that story because it's been the 80s that I last saw it. What else? The Davison episode, I can't remember what that Dalek episode.
Resurrection.
Yeah, Resurrection. The only thing I can remember is that they're still working on Davros. Now he's just ahead. And I was like, man, they're just trying to milk him for all he's worth. And the only thing that was really a big deal to me in that was Tegan, which is a favorite character of mine, leaving the show because she had enough of seeing so many people die.
Yeah.
And so which brings me to really the next Dalek episode I've seen would be Dalek, and then all the modern Dalek episodes, which to me at this point most of those aren't that memorable.
Another point I mentioned before, when the Daleks were originally created back in the early 60s, genocide and racial superiority, one group declaring themselves to be the masters, determined to wipe out everything that they labelled as inferior, still existed in living memory. So the Daleks touched something, struck something that nothing else ever really has before or since. Like the same way that Cybermen represented the fear of technology, the fear of technology stripping away our humanity. In the case of the Cybermen, literally. Today, though, the Daleks are just another villain with a catchphrase who will not fucking die.
James. Yeah. James, you bring up an interesting point about how. Am I correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it that they kind of loosely based the Daleks off of like the Nazis?
Oh yeah, that
Okay.
that was the direct basis of it.
So with modern day, wouldn't it make sense for them to basically borrow from like terrorists? You know, we have
that's the problem that all fiction have had when trying to depict the fear of terrorism, because the thing that makes the Daleks and all other the thing that makes the Daleks and all other depictions of the invader, the exterminator, so terrifying is that we still think in terms of great armies, of invaders, of conquerors, battle being two sides locked together. Our mindset as a society, as a culture, when we think of war, we think of people in tanks doing heroic deeds. We don't think of predator drones destroying houses in Pakistan, murdering children because somebody said that there was once a terrorist there at some point in history, so, well, he might have come back. Or somebody blowing themselves up. Again, that's one of the things. It took 20 years for the Daleks to really appear in a fictionalized as a fictionalization of the Nazis. So it might again take decades for terrorists, for something new to be the fictionalization of terrorists, reflecting capturing and expressing the feelings and the fears around 9/11 and 7/7, the Madrid bombing, etc. But
Sure.
Again, it can't just be the Daleks take on a new role. They were created to represent something specific. You can't just slap another label on them and say, okay, they're representations of terrorism now.
So instead, maybe you're saying that coming up with a new creature or threat for the Doctor that would be more in the vein of like a terrorist would probably work better.
Indeed. Yes, there's something like a species that is committed to chaos and destruction and uses terrorist attacks. Again, that whole idea of they attack at random, you don't know who they are, you don't know what they are. They just disguise themselves as a species and then go in with the goal of creating as much terror as possible. That would be a genuine threat, not just for the Doctor, but for again. I doubt that the BBC would even greenlight something like that, because it would be too much for what is essentially now a family show, Doctor Who.
Yeah, unfortunately. But see, to me, I think it would be the perfect platform, in a sense, to kind of deal with an issue like that instead of, ignoring it.
Oh, again, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. But the fact that Doctor Who is now family entertainment would mean that something like that would have to be depicted elsewhere. Probably BBC 4 at midnight.
And a goodbye from each of you.
Oh, may the hamster of prosperity rest upon your heads.
Keep your name out of the papers.
I will be famous one day.
May the blessings of the great holy donkey be upon your house.
Geronimo.
Oh, you're going to say good night, YouTube, good night, everyone?
Good night, YouTube. Good night, everyone.